What is the most uncomfortable situation you have ever been in? NSFW. Years ago, I was a delivery driver for a place that tried to bill themselves as gourmet pizza. Since they were so classy, the drivers' uniforms were a tuxedo shirt and bow tie. I had the misfortune of delivering to 2 separate bachelorette parties in my time at this company, and on both occasions, the middle-aged ladies refused to believe I was not the stripper. When I actually handed them the pizzas, they still tried to pay me to take my clothes off. I know it sounds like it would be awesome, but it was beyond awkward, mortifying. I could not get out of there fast enough. My friend telling me how his relationship was becoming and wanting to end it moments before his girlfriend texted me for advice on how to tell him she was pregnant. A guy offered to walk me home from an event when I had found out barely an hour ago that he sexually assaulted another student. Got the duck right out of there. Got a ride from some nice gals instead. Confronting my mom about lying in court over my custody case probably. She had her sister and mother lie in court, saying that I had sustained injuries while playing outside, when in fact, her boyfriend at the time smacked me down the staircase and bruised me up badly. When I asked her why, all she could really do is cry and say that she hopes I've seen that she has changed since then. Pretty duckin' awkward. 2 weeks after I got back home from my study abroad semester, I went to see my GF's presentation at her school about her final project or something like that. We were in LDR for the semester I've spent abroad. After the presentation was over, I was talking with my GF's family, while all of a sudden this guy shows up with like 20 roses and begs my girlfriend to take him back in front of everyone. Turns out she was cheating on me with him. He didn't know about. Her family didn't know about. And of course I thought we were still together. You can imagine my reaction when she leaves with him and sends me a text saying that she needs time to think about stuff. It was the most uncomfortable experience in my whole life. Later I found out by one of her friends that she was actually dating the other guy while I was away and asked him for some time when I got back. Her plan was to break up with me without him noticing we were also dating. They're still together as far as I know, but it took me some time to get over that one. So, I dated my first girlfriend during the summer between high school and college. We got really close for a couple of 18-year-olds, so she was over at my house a lot, and my mom loved her. A few weeks into college, I decided the long distance thing wasn't for me and broke up with her. A little while later I got a new girlfriend at the college I was attending. Fast forward to the first day of Christmas break and I'm bringing new girlfriend, who is now my wife, home to meet the parents, and she's going to stay the night before going home to her parents. Well, a few weeks before Christmas break my mom decides to let ex-girlfriend move into a spare room of our house because she got kicked out of hers. Words cannot express how uncomfortable of a situation it was bringing new girlfriend home to stay the night, to meet my parents as well as the girl she replaced, who was also living there. Last night I was having sex with my partner and for some unknown reason, my brain decided it was the perfect time to remind me that Norman Reedus' son is called Mingus Reedus. I was silent laughing so much that I had to fake an orgasm so he wouldn't notice. He noticed. Well, since it's NSFW and no one I know is on Reddit, I was in a severely abusive relationship. Lots of beatings and threats and etc. The most uncomfortable is a tie between having my mouth forced open and urinated in on and being forced into a bed naked and used as an ashtray. Fun times. Got invited to a friend's house for dinner. Unknown to me, I was the only one invited. I was seated on the couch next to his wife, while he sat on a single chair opposite us. Wife constantly snuggled up to me, stroked my arm face, all while making over sexual comments. He just sat there watching this. The meal was served strangely early, after which I made a quick escape, pretty sure I'd been invited over so one of them could have a sex with me. Some guy at a gas station showed me a badge from some medical clinic and said he was a chiropractor and wanted to massage my feet because he said my work shoes could be causing tension that will end up hurting my back in the long run. Got the duck out of there. Sitting in class, random kid next to me whispered, "I have a question, but it may sound a little weird." I said, "Well, usually when someone says that they're about to ask something really weird." He said, "No joke, can I just like stroke your thigh? I always wanted to know what leggings feel like. Can I get to duck? No. A neighbor with a rather interesting history gave me a lift to town one night. On the way he sees his half-brother who has an even darker history than my neighbor. Half-brother asks for a lift to a house a few miles away. When asked why he was going there, he simply replied that he was going there to shoot someone. I was in the backseat feeling rather uncomfortable but scared to ask to get out in case he turned on me. Something that shocked me was how nonchalantly my neighbor told him that was no problem and he'd be glad to give him a lift. I'm sitting in the back wondering how many people have gone to prison for being in the wrong place at the wrong time just like I was. Thankfully we dropped him off. He went his way and we went ours and he was arrested somehow before anything happened. Northern Ireland was an interesting place back then. Late one night, I woke up to the sound of snacking to find my brother fapping. It was the dead of night so he probably assumed we all fell asleep, but I could easily tell due to the fact that his D was outlined by the street lights. Like a lewd dark night coming in the night. I tried to ignore it, but the sounds were haunting. Constant. Dart. Well, a girl once said hi to me. Went on holiday once with people from uni. One of them was a super weird guy we didn't know so well. Had to sleep in the same room with the guy. He kept talking about how his ex was a raging itch and he hated her. Woke up to find him beating off in the middle of the night while crying and gazing out the window. Told him pretty angrily to stop and he said just give me 10 minutes. I need this. I was buzzed on the dance floor right next to a couple that was making out real hard. I went to hold hands with my friend so that we can weave through the crowds, but I accidentally grabbed the dude's hand. I was stuck holding hands with a guy who was making out with a girl for 10 minutes. Bit late, but one time in my early college days my ex-boyfriend was throwing a party at his house. Everyone came, drank, had a good time. Afterwards we went to sleep, me and him in the bed with a couple people scattered around the floor. A friend of ours had back problems. Echo was super whiny and wanted us to share the bed with him and the girl he'd been flirting with all night. So it's me and my boyfriend laying the normal way in the bed, and the other two perpendicular. Well, of course halfway through the night he and that girl think the best idea ever is to just have a sex on top of our feet. My boyfriend just whispered, "He's a virgin. I can't ruin this for him." So we tucked our legs up to our chins and just waited it out. The noises still haunt my dreams. Guy next to me in lecture was rubbing one out through his pants. I just sat there stone-faced and waited for it to be over. He did that long exhale, got up then left. I think he dropped out or got arrested. Either one is likely. Friend told me he was getting head from his girl at a friend's house in his upstairs game room. House friend's best friend walks in and just stands there, staring at them. Friend getting blown was doing motions for him to go away, but he instead sat down and started organizing UGR cards. He gave him a giant try not to act high smile and continued. Friend did not finish. Well, when I was 12, a heroin addict in a semi-famous black metal band tried to groom me into having sex with him. I was in the room, but this happened to my brother. For his 18th birthday we took him to a strip club and a buddy got him a 2-song lap dance in the champagne room. We were all in there and being his birthday the stripper picked the best spot in the room, the corner where she could put her leg up on the wall. When the second song started another girl began to get pissed since she wanted the corner. The two start arguing for nearly a minute and the whole time this is happening my brother has a V like an inch from his face while hearing them fight. Full stop. This is a story I rarely share. I came to the USA from my country in my teens. My country, in my personal opinion, is one of the greatest countries in the world. We're super accepting, and while we have our own issues, Nazism is not really a thing. When I was 18 I went to this punk show in Florida with someone I no longer call a friend. She introduced me to this guy called Frank. He was a little weird, but he was really nice to me. So whatever. A few nights later this girl picks me up and says Frank invited us over. Okay, cool. I like friends. Sounds fun. We drive to the middle of nowhere, Central Florida, about an hour out from where we lived. I couldn't tell you the town. We pull into this remote house, get out, and knock on the door. A little window opens, and we are face to face with a shotgun. My ex-friend yells Frank. It's US. Friend's name, and Fihad Flinkooks. The door opens. We walk in. The house is slathered in Nazi propaganda. I'd never seen a gun before in my life. And there were dozens everywhere, including AK-47s. He tells us to sit down. Puts on this weird porn called Teenage Fantasies. Young girls banging grandpas. I'm weirded out, but I didn't drive and my ex-friend seems fine. You look like the she-wolf, he says, picking up a Nazi hat. You're so beautiful. I want you to wear this hat and hold this gun so I can take pictures of you. I drag my friend to the bathroom, force her to make an excuse, and we leave. I never did hang out with him again, despite his pleads to my ex-friend to see his Aryan princess again. Sick duck. I once waved to a girl who was waving at me. She wasn't. I was first mate on a stunt boat full of models there for a promotion. I slipped, fell headfirst into a footwall and became stuck, splitting my board shorts in the process and spilling my meat and 2 veg into the breeze for everyone to see and admire. One model was sat in a seat directly in front of where I fell. My D was literally 6 inches in front of her face while I was upside down in the footwell. This happened as we were pushing away from the dock. I had to spend the next half hour with these stunning women while wearing a life jacket as improvised pants. Had a threesome and spent too much time in the strange and got yelled at. Still came. Okay, get ready for one hell of an awkward story. Years ago, I was going through a bit of a sexual awakening and pretty much wanted to try everything with anyone. A threesome was something I hadn't ticked off my list yet, and lo and behold, I had friends in a couple who wanted to try. We all got drunk at a holiday house, and one thing led to another. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there was absolutely nothing fun about being the third wheel of that hot mess. My friend starfished herself for the entirety and moaned and groaned awkwardly while we kissed. She wasn't keen on her boyfriend doing much with me, which I suppose was fine, but she didn't do anything with me either, so really, I served as a talking vibrator for the proceedings. When I did finally get some action, the sexiest thing that was uttered was, "Wow, you're so wet." Like, way more than I've ever seen a girl get wet. Like, whoa. When the deed was done, I laid there in the dark as the two reaffirmed their deep love for each other in between kisses and gasps of "my darling." It was at this point I got up and went to make hash browns and bacon at 3 AM. TLDR, had a threesome with friends. I had no idea how to accommodate a third person. Just the other day at work, a girl told me I had a nice face. I quickly responded, "I like your shoes." I don't know if she read it this way, but I was convinced that she would think that meant I didn't like her face and was lying about her shoes. I decided that it was a great idea to introduce my mom to Game of Thrones. After watching about 3 episodes with her, I realize how uncomfortable watching sex scenes with your mom is. I forgot how much they bang in the first couple of seasons, good lord. I proceed to tell her I don't really want to watch anymore. I'm uncomfortable with all of the sex scenes. Her response, "I've had 3 kids. I can handle it." I'm ambidextrous. I was drawing with both of my hands in class when my art teacher comes up to me and says, "Our double fisting is huh?" I know that she understood what she said because she walked away really fast after 2 seconds of deliberation. It was so awkward, but I tried so hard not to laugh. I was friends with a woman who was unhappy in her marriage. She'd had a big fight with her husband, so I went around to try and cheer her up. She spent ages talking about how he doesn't want to have kids etc while she wants nothing more. I get reasonably uncomfortable talking about this kind of thing anyway. After she's done lamenting how her husband won't give her a baby, she starts flirting heavily with me. Even if I was the kind of person to enable someone to cheat, how stupid would I have to be to put my D in someone after they've spent 2 hours talking about how desperate they are for a baby? My ex-GF's ultra-conservative religious sheriff father walked in as Willish was going down on me at 3 AM. He kicked us both out of his house and we ended up sleeping in my car. The next day, her mom invited us to have dinner at their house and lectured us on how what we were doing was disrespectful to God and disrespectful to them. We should save it for marriage, etc. The entire time you could tell her dad was fuming. He barely said 2 words the entire meal. It was highly uncomfortable. We laughed at dinner. Her parents go to bed and we watch a movie in the living room. GF starts getting handsy, and I'm telling her there's no way I'm risking it. She says her parents are super heavy sleepers and their floor is super creaky, so we will hear them coming. Adult things happen. And next thing I know, I'm railing her from behind in the middle of the living room. I close my eyes for 1 second and when I open them, a dad is standing there with a facial expression that is burned into my mind 10 years later. It was a look of pure hatred and murder. We end up grabbing a blanket and trying to cover up, but the damage was done. Her dad and I both completely gave up on any sort of relationship at that point. I ended up dating her for another 2 years and went to her house all the time. Her father never spoke another word to me after that night. I bought tickets to see one of my favorite bands from when I was a teenager. I spent a few weeks getting super excited because I hadn't seen them live before, so it would be a tick off the bucket list. So gig day rolls round. I get the tube to the venue. When I arrive I'm a good 90 minutes early, and the place is still super quiet, so I go grab a coffee. An hour later, I'm really surprised that hardly anyone has showed, but still think nothing of it. This is when I decided to check out the listings to see who else is playing the venue, and see the band I went to see listed for the previous week. TLDR, I got gig tickets and got the wrong date in my head. Showed up on the wrong day. Edit. Grammar. I was standing in a bus and the bus came to a sudden stop. I reached out to grab a rail but ended up grabbing this young woman's ponytail. It was an accident but everyone just gave me that angry look. I was actually heading to the optometrist's to get my new glasses that morning. In my idiotic teen days, the morning after a house party my ex-girlfriend puked in grandma's urn of one of my best friends. His parents unexpectedly arrived a few hours later. The bus would only go in 4 hours. I'm a socially awkward person so all my encounters and interactions are considered uncomfortable situation. Had a dude's girlfriend try to suck my D while he was in the car while she was in the middle and he was in the passenger seat. First time I introduced my girlfriend to my family we all took my niece out for ice cream. There we are, all stood in line, and my ex-girlfriend walks out from the back to serve us. I hadn't seen her since we broke up. That was an awkward 4 minutes. When I was in college I was sitting in a class going over criminal code stuff and the girl next to me leans over and whispers, "It says here you need to be 18 to have an L6 in Canada." Good thing I'm 19. I just let out an awkward laugh and kept taking notes on the lecture. I was at my friend's dad's farm. He's rich, so he had a gatekeeper. I was in one of the cabins with my ex-GF. The gatekeeper thought there was no one inside so he opened the door to a marvelous view of my GF giving me head. I think he was shocked more than we were. Immediately closed the door behind him and disappeared for the rest of the day. Sat on the tram and the woman next to me passed out due to heat stroke and then pissed herself which then trickled down the whole tram. When I tell a funny joke story that nobody else thinks is funny so I do a fake laugh afterwards and try to drag it on.